Hi, everyone. Delighted on this episode to be talking with comics creator Sam Johnson. You might know Sam's work in worlds like Geek Girl, The Almighties, and the currently crowdfunding Cabra Cini. Sam, thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me.
A pleasure, absolutely. So, before we dive in and talk a little bit about the stories that you're telling in particular, curious about how you decided comics was the space where you wanted to create.
So, like, I used to read comics as a kid, in sort of the time of age in your late teens when you're deciding what you want to be, and you all want to be a writer. I was in a Virgin Megastore which had a comic section, which caught my eye. Got back into them. It's like the New Mutants thing going on with Deadpool and all that coming into it. So that got me back into them. And then some comics companies were running talent searches where you'd submit like a pitch, an outline for a story involving their characters. That kind of got me hooked. I did quite well in those, and that was it. It was like, yeah, I want to write comics.
Nice, nice. Now you're exploring the world of crowdfunding, so curious about what that allows you to do and in terms of telling the stories that you want to tell.
Well, crowdfunding as a vehicle, as an outlet, is has become very important, I think, for independent creators. I mean, I don't know quite what the situation is with Diamond now because of the people having left and other distributors. So it might be easier to get into Diamond than it was previously. But my publisher of Geek Girl, Mark Ozier, had difficulties. They did publish with them before, but it became like they wanted a lot.
Hmm
Um,
hmm
and if you're already an established publisher with them, you would kind of think, as long as there's nothing, dodgy about the material, it's a shoe in. I don't imagine Marvel has got to individually pitch every comic they put out to them. So Marcosia stopped using them, got frustrated with that. I'm kind of encouraging them to have another look at it or look at the other distributors, but they don't seem that keen. So they do what they do with it. They put out the trade paperbacks, but Kickstarter is really the place for me to put out the new issues. I mean, they come out eventually in digital comics. You can get them on Comixology, and Indie Planet in physical form. So they are available elsewhere. But I think when you put them out on Kickstarter, like what I was able to do with the last one, because I got ahead on the scripts, was do like 3 issues in one go. Now that was good in that we've got this identity crisis arc running where Geek Girl, who's a former hot popular college chick, lands a pair of super tech glasses, becomes this superheroine. But in this identity crisis arc, her identity literally gets stolen by this new villain identity thief. So she steals her looks, leaving Geek Girl this sort of withered shell, and is walking around pretending to be her. Now, this was quite a good arc, and good to sort of tie it up because the 3 issues conclude it. It's six part arc, but the 3 issues that were in the last Geek Girl so conclude it, and that leaves us free to then concentrate on this Cabra Cini Geek Girl crossover, which is the big thing that's coming. So while Grander, the Geek Girl artist, works on the identity crisis, we can work on and start hyping up the Cabra Geek Girl crossover, which will leave neither of them the same as they were before it.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, I was going to ask about the inspiration behind Cabra Cini and how the story came to be. And I had the chance to read the issue, which you were kind enough to share with me.
Yeah, so Carbuccini, it was just my biggest influence is Grant Morrison's run on Doom Patrol, and with that influence, I was able to when I choose to when I'm coming up with stuff, thinking weird mode because I don't know if you've read Doom Patrol, Grant
Hmm
Morrison, it's weird. I don't think anyone could argue with that.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so yeah, that kind of helped me to get into a sort of zone of coming up with weird things, which are quite prevalent in Geek Girl and Cabra Cini. But Cabra Cini herself, I just thinking in that mode, just sat down, wrote this stream of consciousness. This character is going around a supermarket, smoking a cigarette, which I'm sure is frowned on in supermarkets, abusing the staff. At one point, the guy's given her the wrong change, so she pulls a gun on him. So quite a scenery chewing over the top character. So I
Mhm.
wrote this scene, which is in Cabra Cini Voodoo Junkie Hitwoman Zero, which is on the Kickstarter, and just fleshed everything out from there. I added a supporting cast in Detroit, her boyfriend, and this dimension called the Infinite that she can travel through. Which again, there's a Morris and Doom Patrol influence here, which because of her use of bastardized voodoo magic, she can access this dimension. She can open a portal into it, and having set things up with a sigil and a photo and so forth with her magic for who she's looking for. If there's someone that can't be found by conventional methods, with her magics, she can create a portal to this infinite dimension, which is Limbo's crazy cousin locked in the attic. And then as she makes her way through it, there's these energy arrows guiding her. And once she gets to the end of those, the new portal will open, which will lead her directly to whoever her mark is. The problem with all this is this being Limbo's crazy infinite dimension. The ruler of it, the Rook, doesn't like her. It's not supposed to be used the way she's abusing it. So he throws everything at her, both physically and mentally. So it's damaging her little trips through limbo, are damaging her more than probably she realizes.
Nice, nice. Lots of creativity and great central character with lots of as you said, scene chewing sort of approaches. I enjoyed the horror elements, sort of the suspense things that were happening in the book, and some really interesting panel work that was part of that as well. So curious about what you hope readers notice and what they take away.
So, I mean, we've got two stories in there. So, the one with the panel work, I'm assuming, is the one with the skulls around
Hmm,
it.
hmm.
So, yeah, in which you've got Cabra's origin, which is she was this hooker, downtrodden hooker, abused by her pimp slash boyfriend. And that's how she kind of she couldn't bring herself to just kill him. But she discovered voodoo and made this voodoo doll of him. But then it basically put her in a situation where if she didn't kill him, he'd kill her. So she got his hold of his gun, which he dropped by voodoo dolling him. And she found that in the moment, she quite enjoyed the combination of voodoo magic, a bastardized version thereof, which is even abusing voodoo warlord spirits and guns. So she basically what happened, she has an addicted personality. So she got herself out of this junkie hooker situation, got rid of her boyfriend slash pimp, but has then become addicted to this bastardized version of voodoo magic that she's creating, developing, and abusing. So she's not putting herself in a very safe place.
Hmm, hmm. Yeah. And if I'm a listener out there and I'd like to kind of follow up and read the issue and check it out, are there particular spaces online, websites, social media, and of course the Kickstarter where I might go?
Yeah, I mean the Kickstarter is designed. This Kickstarter is the place basically. Carbracini.com is currently rerouting to that as long as it's live because this is the best jump on point because it collects Carbracini Zero Deluxe collects the original black and white Carbracini origin story, but now in color. By Chunlin Zhao, who's the colorist of Geek Girl, and it collects all the material from pages of Geek Girl that feature her and that set up the forthcoming Cabra Cini Geek Girl Kickstarter, which is the big thing we're like working towards. So that's really the best place. And we've also just added on it Today, in fact, Geek Girl Zero Deluxe version, so that you can get on the ground floor of Geek Girl as well as Cabra ahead of the crossover, and other issues of Cabra and Geek Girl are available on the Kickstarter as well. So that's the place. I mean, that is, as I say, currently rerouting geekgirlcomics.com and cabracini.com, CABRACINI.com. Both take to the Kickstarter. That's the place at the moment.
Wonderful, wonderful. If I can take an additional question here, if I'm a creator out there and I'm interested in exploring work the way you have, any particular words of advice, encouragement, or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, the best thing I would say is don't start out too big. Um, I did, and it's like, getting artists that are going to commit and deliver. So if you're going in with a long series, it's very difficult. And also, publishers don't tend to want to sign up immediately for an ongoing series, unless you're a big name. So, and like Geek Girl, we started as a mini, and then that built up enough audience to follow the 4-issue mini with an ongoing. But with Cabra Cini, I initially introduced her in the pages of an anthology called FX, and she had a regular appearance in that in like the Halloween issue. So what I'm saying is it's good to start in anthologies, and whereas when you think anthologies, you will generally sort of think done in one, but you can do it so it becomes part of a bigger picture. So that those are what I'd say, is to not start too big, and also like an ongoing series that I'd scripted in my very early days. In your early days, you don't, you get better, you develop your craft. So whereas I had scripted an ongoing series, a lot of it didn't entirely work. So what I've ended up doing is pull elements from it and develop things, and some of that actually originally introduced Cabra Cini, and some of it I'm using in the pages of Geek Girl. So even if you do, you've got a right to develop your craft. So I'm not saying it's not worthwhile writing big long stories, but it's not the thing to be, coming straight out there with and to be pitching to publishers.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Well, Sam, thank you for the time, the creating. Thank you for also sharing the issue with me, and glad to share about your work anytime.
Thank you very much.